Hey man, good afternoon, I think.
Yes,
I'm
it
not sure
is.
where you are. I tried to look it up
Well,
today. I couldn't find it on your website where you're based, so
oh, yes. Well, I got to protect the babies, right?
I
I'm
know.
in Fort Worth, Texas.
Ah, Mountain Time, that's 8 hours. 11, no, it's 11:30. 10:30.
It's 12:30. I'm in Central
Central.
Time.
12:30.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
Nice.
Mark, it's so nice to like properly meet you. I've been loving doing these podcast interviews because it gives me a chance to get to chat with awesome people just like you.
Mhm. Thank you. Same here. Same here.
Yeah,
I've
yeah, I
I've
love
seen you
it.
around for quite some time already with Dan, so nice meeting you in person like this.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, what I love to do is just kind of go over what will happen in the interview and then we can hop to it. Does that sound good to you?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So the interview itself, I typically go for about 20 minutes. And
Hmm.
my podcast, YouTube show is called The Amanda Kaufman Show, because then that way I can talk about whatever the hell I want. But
Doesn't
the
have to
the
be
series that
coaching
I've been
or
do yeah, it doesn't have to be coaching. It can be coaching, high performance, family, being an entrepreneur. Um, yeah, like there's so
anything.
many lessons, on the
Mhm.
journey.
Cool.
So, my core audience is coaches. These are people who have invested in bettering themselves as a coach and they are entrepreneurial. So, they want to attract lots of people. They want to be able to live with balance and all of that good stuff.
Mhm.
So, that's kind of who you're talking to. And the segment is called Coaches That Don't Suck.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Interesting.
So yeah, so your particular episode will probably be something around leadership and executive leadership, right?
Yeah, and technology,
Okay.
or I don't
And
know how to combine
technology,
them. Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
That's okay. I actually thought it was really interesting your take on um, how to appeal to premium clients and also I noted you mentioned an ICF. Is that a certification that you got?
It's Coaching Federation. It's one of the
Yeah, yeah.
biggest.
No,
Yeah.
I know
So
what the
ICF.
ICF
Oh
is. I wasn't
no,
clear
I sorry.
about like,
Yeah,
did you get a certification? Is that
I did the train. I did the full training. That's where I learned how to coach. And ICF is like really all about your tool, and there's no input from the coach, and the coach is just there to ask the questions and help the coachee through the process. And there's like no experience to be shared or anything like that, right? That's I don't like that approach. But anyway,
I
that's
don't
the
either. And
ICF
it's
way
really
of
interesting
coaching.
because most people that are actually successful as entrepreneurs seem to
Hmm.
seem to go, nice idea, but
Yeah, exactly. I know.
I love it. I also have an ICF credential, so I got my certification through the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching,
Okay.
which is kind of a funny name for anything. But anyway, turns out there's over 2,000 certifications that you can get that are ICF credentialed.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so they're everywhere.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, I thought those were really interesting. I wanted to double check, Mark, your last name. Do I pronounce that as Wormgoor?
Yes, it's good enough. Yeah. No,
Do
that's
I
what I
do
always
I,
say in English. There is no better
oh,
way to pronounce it in English. It's
there's
fine.
no better way. Okay. Amazing. At the end of the interview, I'm going to ask what is the best way for people to follow you and catch
Hmm.
up? Do you have like
Yeah,
a gift or anything that you're going to be sharing with people that send you a keyword or?
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I'll
awesome.
I'll do dance thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Perfect. I love it. I like that. I think that's a really great way to make new friends. So
Hmm.
awesome.
Exactly.
Anything you don't want me to ask you about?
No, I think I'm good. Also good with any question.
Amazing. All right. So what I like
Cool.
to do is I just clap at the beginning and then I get started and then I'll clap at the end and then you'll know that we're done. Okay?
Okay, sure.
Okay, cool. I got the giggles. I don't know why.
That's a good start.
I've got to get the giggles out. Okay. Here we go. Well, hello and welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. And I am so pumped to keep going with our series on coaches that don't suck. And another coach that doesn't suck is Mark Wormgoor. And I am so sorry because I keep messing up the last name on this, but I'd love you to just take. I'm starting over. My giddy is so bad right now. I don't know why. You must activate something in me. All right, I'm going to start over.
Breathe, relax, zen.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. I'm so excited to keep going with our segment on coaches that don't suck. And my friend Mark here is going to be sharing with us some of his insights over the years. And we're going to be talking about how to get some awesome clients, how to show up as an amazing coach, and a bunch of other things. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And thanks for having me.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. So, Mark, do you mind just taking 30 seconds and giving us a little bit of your background and what has you interested in talking about coaching today?
Sure. Very quick intro. I'm based in the Netherlands, Europe. So my background, I have a background in tech, in IT. I had a long corporate background, about 28 years in technology so far. Did a corporate
Wow.
leadership roles, consulting, all of that. And 4 years ago, 2020, decided to go into entrepreneurship and actually be my own boss instead of working the job. So
Oh,
that's
that's
how I
brilliant.
started. Started building a company, and actually I did a coaching training back in 2020. Never had the intention of being a coach until I started working with Dan Martell, who I really love, and he gave me a very different perspective on coaching. And that's when I thought I
Hmm.
can do a similar thing. I can do what he does, but very specific to leaders in tech, in IT, and that's my niche.
I love that. I love that. And I have huge respect and deep admiration for Dan as well. That's how we met was
Mm-hmm.
being in his coaching program. I'm really excited about coaching, and I have been for over 8 years. So I'm really curious, what did spark your desire to be an entrepreneur? I mean, 28 years in corporate Netherlands. I was going to say
Mm-hmm.
corporate America. 28 years is no joke. Like that's quite an awesome career, especially in the tech space that changes so quickly, so fast. What was it about entrepreneurship that drew you out to that?
So yeah, it's a couple of things. So first, I had this career, and somewhere I had this a while ago when I was in my 30s. I had this end vision for my career. When I was going to be in my 50s, this is the job that I wanted. And somehow,
Mm.
when I was only 40 years old, I got that job by luck, by surprise, and well, anyway, that happened. When I finished that job after 4 or 5 years, it got very repetitive. I wanted to move on. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So as I was figuring that out, I spoke to recruiters. I did some interviews. Actually, found my dream job, which was based in America, by the way. I was going to do that, and then I had the interview, and I was driving back home, and then I thought, this is not what I want. I don't want to work for this guy. The guy was a nice guy, so don't get me wrong. I don't want to work for someone else for another 3 or 5 years. I can't do it. And that's when I decided I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go out, do it on my own, take a chance, and see what that brings me.
Well, and here you are, you're 4 years later. And I have to say it takes so much courage and I really want to just celebrate you really for that, to have so much opportunity and to get aligned enough in your intuition to be able to say, that would be an achievement, but it wouldn't be in alignment. And like that takes a lot of courage. I'm curious, like when you made that choice, that decision, did it affect anybody else? Like, did you have a family that you had to break the news to or anything like that?
So one of the reasons that it's actually possible, I have two daughters. They're currently 21, 23. So at that point, they were sort of around their high school graduation and moving on to college, university. That made it easier to make that decision because they relied less on me. They were sort of set, or at least that's what it felt like, and I didn't have all the responsibility that I had before then, when I still had to take care of them financially, as well as in other ways. That sort of
Yeah.
fell away, and that made it easier to make the decision, and that contributed as well.
Yeah, I can completely appreciate that. You know, I think a lot of people, when they're wanting to make the leap into entrepreneurship, they underestimate the financial investment that's required, no matter what kind of business you do. You know I had that ignorance when I was moving out of, and I am calling it ignorance, by the way, when I was moving out of corporate America, and I was like, oh, I want to have the time freedom. I want to have the financial freedom. I want to have this. I want to have that. That desire is outstanding and amazing. And you also have a lifestyle. So it's really important to really think about what are your lifestyle requirements? What education do you need to get? You know, you went ahead and got a
Mhm.
certification. I did the same thing. But like, what else do you need to know to get to cash flow positive as soon as possible? Because we're entrepreneurs, right? Like, we're providing coaching services, but we're entrepreneurs. So I'm curious, like, did you have like a mentor right away, or how did you figure out what you needed to know to become successful as an entrepreneur?
It's been a very difficult journey. I
Was
underestimated
it
it,
more
like you said.
difficult than you
So
expected?
absolutely. So I thought
Yeah.
I did a couple of different things over the years as well. So I did a startup, and I was absolutely sure that with my experience in corporate, I could make a startup work in 3 to 6 months. I could get it cash flow positive. Didn't happen. So that entire startup never made any money. I spent lots of time. I spent lots of time learning. So it was an incredible lesson. Made no money. So I did some interim consulting after that, and of course that pays the bills, which really helps. And then went back to full time working on a company. And still, it's really hard because I have a corporate background. I know so much about finance, about HR, about delivery, about tech, about operations. That's all the stuff that I know really well. Sales and marketing has been an incredible journey, and I think that is hard, and it's hard to learn when you're new to it, and that's what I struggled with very much in the beginning.
Yeah, gosh, you know, that makes so much sense. And I appreciate you just sharing that and being really open about that. Because I think the marketing is a it's such a big topic, isn't it? Like, there's just so many ways that you can go about doing it successfully, and a lot more where you can be unsuccessful with marketing. And like learning to have that patience for building the skill sets that are required. I totally resonate with what you're saying about, hey, I have all these years in corporate America experience. I was a strategy consultant, for goodness sake. Like, you would think that I'd be able to just like walk out of that arena and into entrepreneurship and bada bing, bada boom, but not quite.
Doesn't work.
So Mark, before we were live here with the interview, you were sharing with me that you found a niche in technology leaders. Do you mind telling me a little bit about how you discovered your specialty and what you wanted to double down on?
And yes, it's also been a very interesting journey. So when I was still in my corporate career, I would often have people come out to me and say, Mark, I have a challenge in my career or with my work. Can you give me some advice? And I just loved giving that advice. And it was either they had given performance feedback, they were struggling with a stakeholder over the project. And I
Hmm.
love doing that. And that's why after I left my career, I decided I want to do a coaching training. So I did a coaching training here in the Netherlands. It's a ICF, the Coach Federation certified training that I did here. And that centers very much around the coach is there as a tool for the coachee. So as a coach, you don't bring input, you don't do mentoring. Mentoring is very different from coaching. And as a coach, you're there to ask the questions, to help them with the challenge and help them find the solution within themselves for the challenge that they're dealing with. And I love that approach, but that's not me. So after that whole training, I decided that's not what I want to do. And then I went on and I did more consulting, and I also have a software development company. And then I joined Dan Martel's group last year, and that was very different because Dan
Mm.
Martel, as you know, he does a lot of mentoring, and actually he does a lot of mentoring. He shares a lot of his own experiences, his life lessons, and I love that about him. I'm not Dan by any means, but I do have a long history in tech, and that's really what I want to share with people. Why? Well, I love tech
Mm.
first of all, and after 30 years, I think I have some experience. I also have 15 years of
I think you
leadership
do too.
experience. Thank you.
Yeah.
But also have 15 years of leadership experience in tech, and I think that's hard because you see a lot of people in technology that know everything about the tech side of it, but don't necessarily understand the social skills that come with it, the leadership skills, how to hire, how to build a team, how to manage your stakeholders, your boss. And there's a lot more that comes to leadership in tech than technology, AI, or programming, or whatever. And that's the
Love
part that I
that.
absolutely love.
Yeah, that's so good. It sounds like you really got tuned into what makes what lights you up and what you really enjoy doing, but you're also matching that. And this, dear listener, is something that a lot of coaches do not do very well at first. But you matched it with the needs and the requirements of your target audience. And like that right there is the secret of being able to unlock marketing, being able to unlock the sales conversation. It's really like, I almost think of relationships as being represented like by Venn diagrams, and we're looking for that overlap between what your genius is and what is it that they need. And it's not necessarily having judgment for, oh, you're a techie guy, so you're socially awkward, judgment, judgment, judgment. It's more like, wait, you want to nail that promotion? You want to get that promotion? Okay, so what else do we need to add to your skill set so that that promotion is a for sure thing and you get there faster with better quality or to avoid a lot of costs? So well done. That is really, really awesome. So Mark, like if you were to offer advice to somebody who was maybe doing a career change, seeking their alignment, maybe they're starting the third chapter, their kids are gone but they're not ready to retire and they're thinking about doing coaching, like what would you say is your top piece of advice if they're considering it?
So I do think a training helps. It doesn't have to be ICF, right, or anything like that, but it really helped me to learn how to ask questions, how to ask the right questions. So
I love
it
that.
helped me grow my conversational skills as a coach. And a lot of those very powerful questions, I now have a large tool set with a lot of very powerful questions that I can ask in a coaching interview. So that always helps, or at least it helped me. And what was really good part of the training that I had was we had a lot of supervised mentoring, so or supervised coaching. So we did like a small group coaching, and it was completely supervised, and there was always someone there to give us feedback, to give us advice, and like how could we do better in our coaching, and that was incredible. So I would
I
say
love that.
always start with doing a proper training around all of the tools and techniques that you can use as a coach to help someone else. Yeah, so I'd say that's an absolute start. Second, figure out your niche. You have a lot of people that just want to be a coach. I think it's really more powerful if you have a very specific niche of people that you focus on, like entrepreneurs, like between 500,000 and 2 million, or something like that, anything like that, or dads, I don't know. But I think have a very specific niche that you focus on that makes your marketing easier, it makes your targeting easier, but also it makes your own lessons that you can share easier to share.
I really love that. And I agree. I'm a coach of coaches and I specialize in coaches that are going after their first six figures usually. Um I think one of the things that I've learned kind of thinking about those lessons is that just because you have a niche doesn't mean that you can't take the odd client that, falls outside of it because you have great rapport and all of that kind of thing. Like I totally get the
No.
idea of being very coachy and, being able to pull it in. But you're right, like having a target audience that's a real validated audience.
Yeah.
I think one thing that a lot of coaches do, I know I was guilty of this too, is we get really introverted and we get into our head and we get into our journaling and all of those kinds of things. We get very hypothetical about how the real world is. And when you can be like, no, like there's a like literal group, there's the community of people that are hanging out together and they all have this stuff in common. I want to serve that group and I want to serve that group with the thing they want to do. Right. And when you get that kind of clarity, you're right. Like the messaging is so much easier. Your methodologies get so much clearer. I guess it's just not enough to just be coachy.
Mm-hmm. And one of the pieces of advice there, this is more from the startup world, and somebody that I recently spoke to that was really in sales said this to me as well. So if you're thinking about coaching and you have that specific group in mind, reach out to 50 people that you know, 50 people on LinkedIn, even random people on LinkedIn that are in that niche, send them a message, say, I'm thinking about going into coaching. This is my idea. Can I just get 15 minutes of your time and just validate if that's something you'd be interested in? It's going to take you a week to do. Speak to 50 people, and you will know for sure if either the niche is there, maybe get your first 5 or 10 clients, maybe don't, but at least you will have validated. And that's a very quick and easy exercise that you can do.
Yeah, that's such a powerful one. And I know a lot of coaches sometimes they're like, "Oh, I don't want to tell them, I don't want to tell everybody what I'm doing until I'm successful." And I'm like, you got to tell people so you can be successful." Right? That and like that's kind of the hard part. Um so good. So Mark, like where are you headed? What are you going to do next? What are you excited about?
So I'm yeah, let me start with where I started. So when I started coaching, and I've been doing coaching of technology leaders for actually a while. Just before the summer, I had an idea that really gave me a lot of energy and it really resonated with me. I call it the Maverick CTO. And for me,
Ooh.
it's leaders in technology. And I love the word Maverick. And somehow everything that I want to share with leaders in tech just come back in the one word. I think leaders in technology, I believe that they should be bold, visionary leaders, right? Not just leaders that are there with their laptop and do their development, but actually be bold, have a vision. And that's what I really want to do and want to share. And that's also what I make part of my coaching now with everyone that I work with. And I just love the whole concept. It's given me energy ever since it came to mind just before the summer.
I love
So
that.
and I think it's that concept that really stuck with me, and that's what I want to share. And now I get on podcasts and talk about it. I do a lot of content on Instagram and LinkedIn as well to talk about it. I get on stages. I have an event for CTOs here in Amsterdam this coming Thursday. I'm going to be on a CIO panel in 3 weeks, and I just love getting on stages, talking about this stuff, and yeah, just sharing what I believe and my vision for tech leaders.
You are living the literal dream, of a coach because I was actually thinking about this just the other day, how important it is for a coach that wants longevity to have a core philosophy. Like and it sounds like you've discovered that. And what's really cool about your story in discovering your core philosophy is that you let yourself help people in the meantime. Like you've been you said yourself,
Mhm.
you've been working with technology leaders for a long time, but it wasn't until this summer that you got the epiphany of this core philosophy that you can get behind. And now you've got speaking. So, do you have a book in there? Are you going to do a book?
I don't know yet. So somebody asked me this recently, and I've already started putting a lot of the stuff that I learned and that I share in a big Notion site. It's nowhere
I
near a book
love
yet, but it's
Notion.
already I know it's already starting to come together. Like with all the ideas, it's something that I already share. So if anyone is interested, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram and just send me DM, say CTO Compass, for example, and that's a start. And I already have the title. If it ever is going to be a book, it's going to be called the CTO Compass. Yeah. So who knows? I don't know.
I think you got a
Maybe.
book in there. I think it's a matter of getting organized and
Yeah.
doing it because like the hard part really is the core philosophy, right? Because
Yeah.
you're making a decision about what you're for and you're also making a decision about what you're against. And that can be really scary, especially in the early days as a coach because you kind of feel like all this scarcity of am I going to be able to find people who want to work with me? Am I going to be able to find, enough business to make this thing really work? And the authentic truth is that the more clear and specific you can be about what your philosophy is, and then you can repeat that philosophy over and over and over again in your marketing and your conversations and your network, then the more people can choose you. And I had another guest recently ask the question. She said, "Would you rather have 100% of 10 people, or would you rather have 0% of 1,000?" And that specificity of what you stand for and against, that's giving you your perfect 10, you know? That's so
Exactly.
good. So I love asking my guests this for this segment. What do you think are the three things that help a coach not to suck?
Okay. Sure. No, and I'm happy to answer. So I think first of all, I think, and that's, I think, by far the most important. Coaching is 100% about the other person, right? So I think the most important thing that we can do as a coach is just like, we're not there. Check your ego when a coaching conversation starts. Don't go there. Don't get there. I mean, that's, I'd say, by far number one, and it's like top out there. So I'd say that's, and I still see coaches that don't have that, that actually want to bring their ego, and it doesn't work. You're there to help another person get better and get further in life, or whatever it is that you do. So I'd say that's the first one. And the second one, and of course, with that, also truly caring about the other person. So I think actually having a personal interest and who's on the other side of that conversation is just as important. If you can't bring those two to the table, it's not going to work. So those two, and yeah, I think those are by far the most important ones. After that, you get like all the technologies, the tools that you can use, the questions to ask, like getting skilled. So making sure that you also have your own training, that you learn more, having a coach yourself. Right now I'm with Dan Martel still, and I love him, but who knows what I'm going to do next year? Maybe find somebody else to coach me, because I do believe also as coaches, and I actually saw that on your Instagram today, and I love that as well. As coaches, we also need coaches. I mean, we should also follow what we preach, and right now for me that's Dan. I don't know who it's going to be next year, but making sure that you also have someone to learn from and get better. So don't get stuck. Just make sure that you continuously get better as a coach over time.
I love it. I love it. You know, the biggest thing that we offer as coaches is this capacity for people to have new perspective. And whether you agree with the philosophy that the coach is just the tool and they just ask questions and they never offer information, or you don't, I think the thing that remains is this idea of the expansion of perspective. And it's so hard to have someone expand their perspective if they don't trust you. And I totally agree with everything that you just said. You know, like if you're not practicing what you preach, why would somebody trust you? If you don't like the person that you're coaching, why would they trust you? Right. And if you don't make the decisions that are ultimately in the highest service, then why would they trust you? And coaching is ultimately a relationship. Yeah. Super. Well, Mark, this has been fantastic. And I really want to just thank you so much for being here. How can people follow you? Like, what's the best way?
Yeah, if people are on LinkedIn, Mark Wormgoor on LinkedIn, you'll find me there. On Instagram, Mark Wormgoor as well. Follow me there. Follow me, send me a message, reach out, and happy to chat.
Mark, I'm so glad that we connected. I can't wait to see what you do next. I'm eagerly awaiting your book. And listener, hey, go ahead and share this episode with 3 of your coachy friends who are navigating that transition. There were some major, major nuggets of gold in this episode. And don't forget to subscribe so that you can catch the next one, and leave us a 5-star review because it helps the other coaches and entrepreneurs to find this episode more easily. Thank you so much for taking the 30 seconds to do those things, and we will see you next time. We found our groove, Mark.
That was cool. That was nice.
That was cool. Yeah. What do you think? What was your favorite part?
I think everything. I love the whole conversation. I think that I wasn't prepared for the 3 things that make coach not suck. So I struggled a bit with that question because I had one, but that was okay. I love the whole, about growing as a coach and finding your niche. And I just love the whole flow of the conversation. It flowed quite naturally from who I am, where I started, to how I feel about coaching, what I love about coaching. And yeah, I thought it was a very natural flow. I liked it. It was good.
Good. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I had a blast. So
Me too.
the next step is I'm gonna download it. I do my own editing. But we're gonna edit it up. We're gonna produce some reels and some collateral to make it even easier for you to promote it too.
Okay, cool. I will pop LinkedIn and Instagram. And yeah, with every email, I was always wondering, is this Amanda's EA? Is this Amanda? So I love that. I love that with all the dance people. You never know who sends an email, right? That's with everyone in dance group. It's always like, who is this actually?
Yeah, exactly. Am I talking to the That's so good.
Or
well, Mark, do you have any questions for me or
no? I'm all
no?
so timelines. Can I ask that?
Oh, timelines. Right now, it's looking like it'll probably be in the latter part of November.
Okay.
Probably, I'm thinking before Thanksgiving, but we're going to have a specific date for you pretty shortly. And what I'll do is I'll
Okay.
send you a follow-up email this week. I will send you a follow-up email this week. Inviting you to a coffee chat and just kind of confirming what the release date's going to be. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
and you can take me up on the chat if
Sounds
you'd
good.
like, and if not, then that's okay too. It's just a friendly opportunity to get to know each other better.
Okay. I'll do.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks,
We'll see
Amanda.
you soon.
Okay. Cheers.